Good morning. This is my last video of the 6 that I have made on Operation Sindoor, and the list of the 6 subjects is on the screen. Now in this video I want to discuss my 4 observations which have come out of my recent visit to Kashmir. And these observations, they are really about the hope and despair of the Kashmiri people. But before I do that, there's a bit of a background that I want to talk about. Now, any journalist or analyst who's been to Kashmir in the 2 decades after year 2000 would be familiar with the name of Professor Abdul Ghani Bhatt, a prominent Hurriyat leader, but who was for me always a tall Kashmiri intellectual. I first met Professor Bhatt in 2005, and thereafter, during my many visits to Kashmir, I always made it a point whenever possible to spend time with Professor Bhatt because both of us enjoyed talking on 2 subjects. One was the Kashmiris and the second was geopolitics. Now on the Kashmiris, Professor Bhatt would always tell me that they are great survivors, that Kashmiris are like snake in the grass. The moment they sense danger, they know how to keep the head down and wriggle out and find a safe place. The point he always made was, by this example, that the Kashmiris will never share what is going on in their mind, what they are thinking with the outsider. Well, I have no problems with what Professor Bhatt said. In fact, what I would tell him is that look, the Kashmiris stood by India in the 1965 war. The problem happened in 1990 when India inducted large number of Indian Army troops armed with Armed Forces Special Powers Act and without an exit strategy in Jammu and Kashmir, and this was a blunder at 2 levels. At one level, just think 35 years, generations of Kashmiris have grown up bearing the high-handedness of the Indian Army. Anybody who's been to Kashmir and has interacted with the Kashmiris knows that they are polite people, they respect others and they want the others to respect them, but the Indian Army never did this with the Kashmiris. Indian Army always saw the Kashmiris as the adversaries, as the other, never as Indians. So the alienation was very obvious and it happened over the years. The second observation, of course, or rather the blunder, is what I have spoken of earlier also, which is the professional part, that when you do counter-terror operation for 35 years, you get removed from your primary task, and the primary task of the Indian Army is fighting or preparing for a hot war. So today a situation exists where the Indian Army and the Indian military still do not understand the nuances of a modern war, but this is not the subject that I am discussing here now. Coming back to my interaction with Professor Bhatt, the other subject used to be geopolitics, and I was always amused how Professor Bhatt, whenever we spoke about the future of Kashmir, he would raise the level from it being a India-Pakistan problem to it being a South Asia problem, and then he would bring China also into it. And this is what fascinated me, because for me, if there is one place where geography and geopolitics they converge, that is Ladakh, because this is where the 3 countries, China, Pakistan and India, they physically meet. And in fact, this is what then I would tell Professor Bhatt that I want to share now, that it was in year 2000 that the Pakistan ruler General Musharraf offered the deep sea Gwadar port to the Chinese. The Chinese accepted the offer, but they were thinking ahead. And what they were thinking is that if we are to make this Silk Road, which eventually got the name China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it was signed in 2015, then it has to be from Xinjiang to Gilgit Baltistan to Pakistan occupied Kashmir, Pakistan, and then on to Gwadar. So it had to pass through Gilgit Baltistan, and until 1947 Gilgit Baltistan was a part of Ladakh. So what the Chinese did was, starting year 2008, they started issuing stapled visas to the Kashmiris who wanted to visit China. Then in 2010, when the Chinese Prime Minister Wen Jiabao came on an official visit to India, the Chinese embassy in Delhi publicly announced that the border of China with India was a mere 2000 kilometers excluding Ladakh. Now you see, until 5th of August 2019, when you see the state of Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh is part of Jammu and Kashmir state. In other words, what they were saying now is that since they exclude Ladakh from the border, then the Kashmir also gets excluded, and therefore now they could give the normal visas to the Kashmiris instead of the stapled visas. And that practice they started in 2012. So the point to make is, when they made this announcement in 2010 about excluding Ladakh from their border with India, that should have been a message, a hard message for the Indian establishment, but Indian establishment did not notice that, and even today it talks of bilateralism on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. The fact of the matter is that China today is a stakeholder on that in Jammu and Kashmir. In any case, it is there physically sitting today in eastern Ladakh, which is why in these series of videos that I have made on Operation Sindoor, I have explained that how today China has the credibility, the capability and the political will to change the status quo of Kashmir. Now let me come to my observations. My first observation is, I was quite surprised when I landed at Srinagar airport and to the place where I was staying. There were a lot of people, which was unusual, who recognized me. And these are the people who actually came forward and they met me also. And they spoke their minds with me, they spoke what they were thinking. And the reason for that was that during those 4 days of Operation Sindoor, there was no television working in Jammu and Kashmir except the mainland television, the mainline television channels. Only they were working. Even Al Jazeera was banned. So they told me that the only place where they could get a neutral assessment were from the videos that I was making on Operation Sindoor. And therefore they wanted to meet me and they wanted to share their thoughts with me. But I must caution the viewers here that I was immediately reminded of what Professor Bhatt used to tell me about the Kashmiris, that they will never share their mind completely with the outsider. But I still believe that they shared a lot with me. So the first thing that they wanted to know was about the hope on China that they have put. And the reason was, they asked me that during Operation Sindoor, mind you, they were not interested so much into how Pakistan did against India as they were interested in knowing how much China has helped Pakistan in Operation Sindoor against India. That is what they wanted to know, because eventually they wanted to get to the question that how much can China help the Kashmiris and Kashmir. This was their reason for big hope, and this is the reason that many in Kashmir today have. Something that I and Professor Bhatt used to talk a decade back. Now, the second thing, my second observation is that many people who met me, or rather the majority of them, they said that they had no hope of Pakistan today standing by the Kashmiris. And the reason they gave is that if Pakistan can jail the most prominent popular leader Imran Khan, then how can they expect the Pakistan establishment to stand by the Kashmiris? Some even went further to suggest to me that, asking me that was it possible that the present Pakistan establishment, after they have claimed a victory in Operation Sindoor, that they would release Imran Khan and have fair and fair elections. Well, I told them it's the business of Pakistan, it is not my business, but I'm just sharing the thought that they shared with me. So here they had two questions that they asked me, or what they shared with me. One was, which was a minuscule, this was not the large majority of people, who wanted to know that if it was possible to have an independent Kashmir, That means two Kashmir, with India and Kashmir with Pakistan, with help from China. But the majority wanted to know that could Chinese help ease the life, the day-to-day life of the Kashmiris, and was it possible for the two countries, India and Pakistan, to still start working together on the 4-point Musharraf formula? So this was my second observation. My third observation was that the Kashmiris shared with me that they were already alienated, but how under the Modi government things have really gone very bad. And for two reasons. One, they told me that after the revocation of 370, what happened was that at all levels, even at the lower administrative level, the outsiders, they were brought into Kashmir, where used to be the Kashmiri officers manning the administration, now there were people from outside. So this created a lot of difficulties for the Kashmiris to have an emotional connect with people from outside, because a Kashmiri can share his problems with a Kashmiri officer, but not really with an outsider. So this was a big problem and one of the key reasons for further alienation, because the outsiders, according to them, don't understand the Kashmiri problems at all. And the second issue that they brought up is that after the 2024 assembly elections, which brought Omar Abdullah government into power, there has been a change, there's been a big power shift, in the sense that earlier we all knew that there was the central government and there was the state government. And everybody was aware that it was the central government which used to push the state government to do things. Now what has happened is that there is the central government, and if I may just say in military terms, that there is a lieutenant governor office which is really the advanced headquarters of that central government in Kashmir. And as far as the chief minister is concerned, he is merely a ceremonial post. So basically, when they were telling me all this, I was reminded of an interview that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh had given to a channel when the assembly election results had not come, and he was asked which party will form the government in Jammu and Kashmir, and he had said that I am confident the BJP will come back to power. Well, he was not wrong there at all. And my last observation, and perhaps a very important observation, is that despite the alienation, the gross alienation of the Kashmiri people, there is no doubt that the Kashmiris, they don't have any animosity towards the Indian civilians. They have problems with the central government, not with the Indian civilians, the tourists who come to Kashmir. And this is the reason that after the Pahalgam massacre, when we saw these Kashmiris come out in large numbers in solidarity, that was all spontaneous. That was not faked, that was not planned at all. But what happened after that was that Farooq Abdullah, while talking to a channel, mentioned that these terrorists who have done this Pahalgam massacre could not have done this without the insiders' support. This created a big problems for the Kashmiris. I don't know if Farooq Abdullah was aware of that, because even I traveled to Pulwama to see a house which was demolished by use of explosives by the Indian Army. Not the security forces, not the police, not the paramilitary, the Indian Army is doing that there. So this has again further alienated the people of Kashmir, because when you raise the voice on the suspicion that the person living in that house is a suspected militant or a terrorist, then you create a lot of problems for the whole family also. And in fact, the brother of that suspected militant or actual militant, I don't know, he was standing right there a little distance away from me, but he was too scared even to talk to me. And then from the windows I could see a lot of these neighbors who were also scared, just peeping and seeing outside who's standing. So the point I'm making is a real fear psychosis, it has been created by the Indian Army, especially in Kashmir after the massacre of Pahalgam massacre, and that is not a good thing because what has happened is a lot of people have been rounded up, I am told. What is called the overground workers, something like 10,000, I am told. I don't know if this is the correct figure. They've been rounded out, and I am told that something like 2,500 suspected people have been booked under Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. This is a very harsh act under which there is no bail. Not only the person suffers, the family suffers, no job is given to the family, no passport is given even to their kith and kin, and the journalists are having a very tough time. I noticed that in Jammu and Kashmir, they are living in constant fear. They are being chased by the police, they are being chased by the intelligence agencies. In fact, when I wanted to meet a couple of them, they actually were telling me that you come and meet us at so and so place. I mean, they were just hiding. Of course, I did go there. So they were just hiding. And to top it all, what is happening is that in the social media in the country, that anti-Kashmir sentiment has been whipped up as a consequence of these poor Kashmiris who are there in Kashmir. Now they are worried about their brothers, about their children who are there in other parts of the country, who are studying there, about their safety, how they'll be treated by the locals. So the point I am making is, it is not about saying that Kashmir land belongs to us. It is the people who have to first belong to you. That is very important, and that is something that the Indian government should look into. And I just thought I'll share my observations on this. Thank you very much.